This is one of the most important books ever written. It's so important that it changed the course of human history. And if it weren't for this book, we might not exist as a species. I mean, sure, we probably would have found some other way to get through the Dark Ages, but things would have been a lot more difficult. We can thank one man for writing this book, a man whose name has become synonymous with one of the most well-known sayings in all of literature. But who was this man, and what did he write? Welcome to my channel. And today we're going to find out who wrote Be Not Afraid of Greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. It's me. This is my channel. Every week we tell stories of incredible people from history, stories full of adventure, intrigue, lust, war, and glory. If you enjoy those kinds of stories, then please subscribe. Let's begin. Christopher Columbus did unjust set sail west in 1492. Because he was bored, or because he had nothing better to do, he set sail west in 1492. Because he was driven by an insatiable curiosity about the world and a desire to bring back riches to Italy. You see, since ancient times, trade along the sea routes between Europe and Asia had been monopolized by middlemen in Venice and Genoa, two Italian port cities. This meant that merchants inland had to pay exorbitant prices for goods such as spices, silk, and porcelain, and many of them were eager to find a cheaper route to the east. For his part, Columbus knew that there had to be a shorter route. After all, the earth was round. It couldn't possibly take 3 months to sail from England to India, as everyone seemed to believe at the time, but no one had discovered a faster route, because no one really knew how the earth looked. They had no idea where Asia lay. All they had to go on were the guesses of travelers like Marco Polo, who described Asia as being a 3-month journey away. But Marco Polo had traveled overland, and it was believed that sailing would be much faster. So in 1485, Christopher Columbus approached the Spanish monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella with a proposal. He wanted to set sail west and reach Asia in only 2 months. The king and queen considered the proposal, but they had to reject it. Spain wasn't quite ready for exploration just yet. In fact, they were still trying to kick the Moors out of their country. So the royal couple politely turned down Columbus's offer and let him know that when the time came, they'd love to hear his proposal again. 5 years later, Columbus knocked on the door of the Spanish monarchs once again, but they were still too busy fighting the Moors to listen to his proposal. But after 5 long years of fighting, the Moors were finally expelled from Spain in 1492, which left the Spanish monarchs free to consider the possibility of exploration. This time, they agreed to fund 3 ships and 150 men for Columbus to sail west. But if he didn't find land within 3 months, he would return to Spain empty. And so, in August 1492, Columbus set sail west. But soon after leaving land, supplies began to dwindle and men became scared. On October 12, 1492, after weeks without food or water, the crew spotted land. The men cheered and named the island San Salvador. Unfortunately, the island was uninhabited, and Columbus realized that his provisions would run out soon, so he decided to sail north. He sailed 4 days, hoping to spot another island, and eventually he did. This one, however, was inhabited by natives, but these people had never seen a Spaniard before. They had no idea that a global pandemic was waiting in the wings to wipe 90% of them off the face of the earth. But that's beside the point. The natives welcomed the Spaniards warmly, and Columbus made friends with the local chieftain and gave him a red cap as a gift. The chief wore the cap proudly and told everyone around him that he had received it from the god of the Spaniards, who was apparently very fond of the natives. From that moment on, the Spaniards referred to the natives as Indians, and when they returned to Spain, Columbus presented the red cap to the Spanish monarchs as proof of his discovery. Ferdinand and Isabella were delighted. They awarded Columbus the title of Admiral of the Ocean Sea and granted him the wealth and titles of a noble. And Spain was forever changed. Okay, so that's the story of Christopher Columbus. But why do we care? Well, because the course of human history changed the moment Columbus reached the Americas. You see, over the next few decades, Europeans flooded into the New World. The Spanish especially were keen on settling in the Caribbean and South America, and they brought with them horses, cattle, pigs, and chickens, all of which multiplied rapidly in the New World and spread across the continent. These animals would have a huge impact on the native peoples. For example, the Aztecs had never even seen a horse until the conquistadors rode them into battle, and the Native Americans used horses in warfare, hunting, and transportation, which made them much more effective against the Aztecs than they would have been otherwise. Horses also allowed the Native Americans to travel much farther and faster, which led to increased trade between tribes and an overall increase in population. To put it simply, the introduction of horses to the New World helped the Native Americans thrive, and they wouldn't have stood a chance against the conquistadors without them. But unfortunately, the Europeans didn't bring anything else with them to help the Native Americans. They brought diseases which devastated Native American populations, who'd never even heard of Old World hygiene. Smallpox, measles, and bubonic plague killed millions of Native Americans. In fact, Some historians estimate that 90% of Native Americans died as a result of diseases brought over by the Europeans. This means that if it weren't for the introduction of horses, cattle, pigs, and chickens, there might not have been any Native Americans left at all. The influx of livestock into the New World had another important effect. It caused major changes in climate. As cattle roamed the plains, they trampled vegetation and trampled it into the soil, causing massive erosion. Since there were no large predators in the New World, the cattle multiplied quickly, leading to this in turn led to desertification in some areas of North and South America. And the arrival of pigs and chickens also had a negative impact on local plants and animals. Pigs destroyed crops and competed with native animals for food, while chickens pecked at eggs laid by native birds, stole their food, and even ate their babies. So, while the introduction of European livestock did help the Native Americans thrive, it also devastated local plants and animals. It led to the extinction of several species, including the Carolina parakeet and the great auk. Okay, so now you might be wondering why this book matters. Well, it matters because this book helped change the course of history. You see, when Christopher Columbus returned to Spain from his first voyage, he published an account of his travels called The Book of the First and Second Voyages to India Beyond the Ocean Sea. The book was a huge success, and it inspired others to explore the New World. In fact, it inspired one man in particular to embark on a second voyage to the Americas. And that man was none other than Amerigo. Amerigo Vespucci was an Italian explorer who set sail for the Americas in 1497. He didn't find gold or other riches, but he did discover new lands. When he returned to Europe, he published his account of the voyage, which included detailed descriptions of the Brazilian coast. Unlike Columbus, Vespucci realized that the lands he had discovered were not actually in India. Instead, he believed that they were a completely new continent, and he wanted the world to know about it. Now, if you've paid attention, you may have noticed that we haven't mentioned the name of the book yet. And that's because the book is called The Book of the First and Second Voyages to India, Beyond the Ocean Sea. It's called Mundus Novus, or New World. And this is where our favorite quote comes in. Now, here's the thing. When Vespucci first published Mundus Novus, no one really cared. It wasn't until a German mapmaker named Waldseemüller read the book that anyone thought much of it. Waldseemüller was impressed by Vespucci's description of the New World, and he decided to publish a book of his own. His book was called Cosmographiae Introductio, or Introduction to Geography, and it contained the first known use of the name America. You see, in Chapter 6 of his book, Waldseemüller wrote, "Let us now speak briefly of the bounds of this newfound region, which we call America, in the honor of Amerigo, a skillful navigator, who was the first to sail to that land from the south of the equator." Now, Waldseemüller wasn't the first person to use the name America. That credit goes to a man named Martin Waldseemüller, who used the name in a letter to the Holy Roman Emperor. But Waldseemüller's book was much more popular, and it helped to spread the name America throughout Europe. And that's why we're so thankful for this book. Without it, who knows what we might be calling the Americas today? So next time you're reading a book, remember that it could change the course of history. Just ask Amerigo Vespucci. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button below and leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.